When I was first married, I did not want to have kids. I'd watched my brother Dan's children eat, and they were disgusting. One Thanksgiving dinner, I watched them put peas in their ears and corn down their diapers. Not a whole cob, but man. Then they blew pablum out their noses, and they wanted a kiss, and their mother gave them one. That afternoon, I was sleeping off a turkey hangover on the sofa. My 1-year-old nephew brought a very ripe diaper to rest on my forehead. It was one like this, but this diaper was thick. It said that it held up to 20 pounds and it was at maximum capacity. I sat up, I thought, I will have children just as soon as cows produce Coca-Cola. And I kept that vow intact until the night my wonderful wife stood before me in some rather expensive lingerie and said, "Honey, let's have kids, tons of them." And it seemed like a good idea at the time. 6 months later, I found myself in something called prenatal class. Do they have that where you are? I was learning how to breathe. We watched R-rated films, and they handed me a tennis ball. They did. "Rub her back with this in the delivery room," said the instructor. "It will provide peace and serenity, a sense of oneness with each other and the universe." I thought to myself, I bet Solomon never went to prenatal class. Well, May 31st, 1986 was a Saturday. My friends were playing softball that day. I was not. I was pacing a hospital hallway with my wife, or at least I think this was my wife. But whereas Ramona had always been rather sweet and soft-spoken, this woman was more like Attila the Hun in a hospital gown. "Rub my back," she commanded me. I pulled out the tennis ball. "Don't touch me," she hollered. And that continued for about 14 years until I found myself face to face with the very first miracle I had ever witnessed, my firstborn son. He was a little wrinkly, but who could blame him? I counted his tiny fingers and his toes, 5 of them on each foot and hand. I looked into his eyes. They were blue like mine. "Stephen," said my wife, past the widest smile I'd ever seen on her face. And I gotta tell you, something happened. Call it a miracle. Call it a revival. I looked into those blue eyes and it was like someone just smacked me upside the head and said, "Callaway, for the first 25 years of your life, you have been a hypocrite. You have been close to the church, but very far from God. You're holding in your arms the one little guy you'll never be able to hide it from. If you think this little guy won't see it, you're naive. If you think this little guy won't learn from what he sees, you'd better think again." You know, people ask me when I became a Christian. I say May 31st, 1986. You see, that night, for the first time in my life, I bowed my head and I said, "Dear God, make me real. I want this precious little boy to hunger and thirst after righteousness. I want him to love Jesus with everything he's got, and if he won't learn to from me, he's got 2 strikes against him already." And I meant every word. It's been slow going sometimes. It has. One of my books is I used to have answers, now I have kids. I admit that I've changed diapers with a clothespin on my nose at times. But you know, God heard my prayer. One of the best things I've ever done as a dad is to spend time on my knees praying and spend time in the Bible just about every day. Psalm 103 offers dads 5 characteristics of God that we are wise to display. He's slow to anger, abounding in love, merciful, righteous, faithful. And then it says, as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. 5 years later, this same little boy looked up at me one night and said, "Daddy, I want to be like you." And tears came to my eyes, because I don't have all the child-rearing answers out there, but I do know this. If we want our children, our grandchildren, to love God, let's love Him first. If we want them to obey, we need to be obedient to the still small voice of God. And if we want our lives to be changed forever, have children, tons of them. And P.S., don't forget the tennis ball. Hey Siri, subscribe to Laugh Again TV.